All right. Okay. Well, good evening and thank you to the community of Jackpot for hosting us tonight. We're glad to be here. We ask you to please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance to start our meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item 1.3 is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Thank you. Chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Item 1.4 is the introduction of our student board member. All right, Mr. Anderson.
Hello. So down at the end of the table over there, we have Anita, is it Lichter?
Yes.
Awesome. Hello, Anita. Thanks for joining us today. Anita is a senior here at Jackpot High School. She is currently in volleyball and also used to be in cheer, sounds like. Very good. Her favorite subject in school is math, and on her off time, she works at the New Loves that's just up the street here. It's looking pretty good. And she loves to play volleyball and sleep.
Yep.
Sleep as well. Something I think a lot of us can identify with. Love to sleep. So Anita, thanks for joining us. Great to have you here. And feel free to chime in and help us out with the student perspective on what we talk about, okay? All right, very good. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to item 1.5, receive a presentation from Jackpot Combined School.
Good evening. My name is Maribel Torero, and I teach K1 here at Jackpot Combined School. And what we would like to share with you today is our new health system that we implemented this fall. So what? This wheel will be used for, it's going to be designed where new students coming in will get to spin it and they will get whichever house they land in, that's the house that they will join for the rest of K through 12. And this was donated by Cactus Pete's, one of the original wheels from the Horseshoe Casino. So thank you, Cactus Pete's.
Yes.
How is the weather coming down? Quite a thunderstorm.
A little wet.
A bit of rain.
Yeah.
Very right.
I was thinking maybe the community of Jackpot was trying to bribe us and we spun the wheel and we got that kind of money. I was like, all right. This is a pretty wheel though.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
1950 is when it was up there. It's one of there had 3 big 6 wheels, and that was one of them she gave us to spin.
It's terrific.
That's fun. Well, if we can't get the technology going for a minute, perhaps we could move to item 1.6 and then come back to 1.5, if that's okay with the board. You're ready. Okay. See, I just needed to say something.
Right.
All right, let's go.
Okay, 3 houses, 1 family. Balam, Uturunku, and Osolo. Jackpot Combined Schools established the house system in 2023. The house system is inspired by the Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. Each student on campus spins the wheel and is placed into one of 3 houses. They instantly become a member of their house, which they remain in through 12th grade. Each week, students wear their house shirts or colors for the house spirit day to show their house pride. House system. There we go. Many schools in the United States have adopted the English-style house to further the closeness of their small communities, as well as to add some fun to the academic atmosphere. Our house system aims to help students find a sense of belonging no matter where they are on campus. It allows our students to build a community where they have ownership and leadership. Our houses also address growth mindset and modeling good character with an additional focus on culture and diversity. What are the houses and what do they represent? Balam is a house whose name is Mayan means jaguar, because like the jaguar, the members of this house are students filled with freedom and wild abandon who recognize their dreams and will let nothing stand in the way of achieving them. The jaguar is a powerful creature who is almost impossible to tame when it sets its eyes on a goal. Uturunku, House of Wisdom. Uturunku is an ancient Incan house of wisdom whose destiny is defined by striving for excellence. Uturunku knows that wisdom and knowledge will be the strength that will guide them towards academic success. They will pursue wisdom in everything that they do. And that's the best one. Oslo, House of Courage. Excuse me. Oslo is a tight-knit group of individuals like a crowd of Aztec jaguars where family means everything. The house's symbolic animal, the jaguar, serves to empower incoming members. While new students might be quiet or shy at first, the longer that they are in the house, the more they begin to display the characteristics of strength and bravery. This is why Oslo welcomes creative and quiet kids and turns them into leaders over time. The house sorting. The initial house sorting took place on the first day of school. All staff and students selected a balloon and popped to reveal their house. House sorting for new staff and students will be determined by spinning the wheel. And I'm going to go a little bit off the slideshow, but the kids came in and they chose their house. They got to put on their shirt, and then Mrs. McCarthy got this huge blow-up slide, and they got to go down the slide. And that was kind of like the slide of courage because they're taking that leap and joining their family, and it was amazing. Thank you. Okay. Awarding house points based on the PROUD 5, perseverance, responsibility, overachievement, willingness, and leadership. Students will be able to earn points based on those 5 criteria, and they will be given the points by staff members, and it could be before school, during school, and the houses, they will be appointed to each house. And if you, when you walked in behind the gym doors, there's that's how we're going to keep track of points. And building a community through the house system. We will hold house meetings, school activities, games and team building, parent involvement, and celebrations. Thank you. That is our house system that we are proudly implementing this school year.
Thank you. Looks great. Any questions from the board or comments?
Can I just ask,
Yes.
did staff get to go to the Ron Clark Academy?
We did.
Nice.
Yes, most of us have gone
Nice.
at least once.
That's great.
There's only a couple of the new ones and 2 of the teachers that we had that hadn't.
That's very nice.
Terrific.
Well, thank you for that. What a fun way to start the school year. That's exciting.
Yeah,
Can't
thank
wait to
you.
hear how it goes. So give us a report again. All right. Is there anything else? I just want to make sure we don't miss anything before we move on. All right. Okay, we'll move on to item 1.6, receive a presentation from attorney Paul Anderson regarding school media mass litigation.
Hey, thank you, Madam President. I hope everybody can hear me. I understand there might be some technical issues. Hopefully you can hear me. If you can't, please let me know. Anyway, my name is Paul Anderson. I'm a partner with the Maupin Cox and Lagoy law firm in Reno. I've been an attorney in Nevada for 40 years, doing primarily education law. I've represented a lot of school districts and continue to do that, as well as the NIAA here in Nevada. I was asked by a law firm in San Diego, known as the France Law Firm, to assist them or associate with them in Nevada with respect to this mass social media litigation that is ongoing currently between many school districts throughout the country. Actually, hundreds of school districts are joining, and the lawsuit is against many of the social media providers, including TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the Meta platforms, and whatnot. And what it seeks to do, similar to what happened with respect to the Juul litigation, is to bring forward relief to school districts based upon the damage that these defendants have caused. This is what we call a mass litigation. And in a mass litigation, it's a little bit different than a class action. A class action is one lawsuit in which various plaintiffs, in other words, all the school districts would join into one case. Here, a mass litigation involves each individual district having its own case filed against these entities. And that sounds probably like something that's a little bit overwhelming for a school district such as Elko County or any other school district here in Nevada, but it's really not, because it's handled much the same as a class action would be. So what happens is the cases are all being filed in federal court in the Northern District of California. That's where the Juul cases were also filed. And they're being litigated as we go, like right now. They're in the process of doing that. They're seeking relief, like I say, individually with respect to various school districts. If you were to decide to join this, the benefit of doing that is you're going to be looking at some slight involvement for some district staff. Council in San Diego, who are really the experts with respect to this, do not anticipate more than 10 hours of staff time for what we call non-bellwether plaintiffs. And Elko County would be a non-bellwether plaintiff. A bellwether plaintiff is a school district, a larger school district, perhaps like Clark County or Washoe County, where they would actually be one of the plaintiffs that would do one of the initial trial cases to determine basically the parameters or range of settlement or damages and that sort of thing that are going to be available to all of the school districts. So there's little investment of time with respect to staff that you already have to help respond to questions that are going to be raised through what we call interrogatories that will be coming from the defense counsel. Once that's done, then it's what we anticipate happening is all of this going into a settlement conference, probably within the next 1.5 to 2 years, and then settlements ultimately being made with respect to all of the parties. And getting back to the mass litigation part of this, the advantage of that is that Elko County, for instance, your damages will be measured based upon your district as opposed to just being one of perhaps 1,000 or 2,000 plaintiffs that might be in a case, and you get a very small piece of the pie. I can't tell you what the range of settlement would be because we're just not we're not there to this point where we can make those determinations. But I can tell you that you will incur zero costs in terms of any discovery or anything like that, where there's money that has to be put out in order to advance the case. And all the attorney's fees will be paid through whatever the settlement is. The Franslaw Group and me, in association with them, we're offering a contingency fee agreement that's a 25% contingency fee, which is substantially low compared to most other cases of this nature and what other firms that are handling these are offering to handle them at. Typically, it's more of it's 33 to 40%. So that's another advantage if the district were to choose to join this litigation. I can tell you that the several school districts have in fact joined already. And I can tell you Carson City has, Churchill County, Douglas County, Eureka, Humboldt, Pershing, Story County, Pyramid Lake High School has joined. There's several charter schools that I'm going to be presenting to in the next month or two that are also anticipating joining the litigation. Clark and Washoe have joined. So there's a substantial number of the districts throughout the state that have already joined the litigation. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have and do my best to give you as much information as I can.
All right, any questions from the board?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson, have any of the school districts that you listed, have they filed the social media lawsuit in court yet?
They have. What typically happens is if for instance, if Elko County chooses to join, there's an attorney fee agreement, a contingency fee agreement that is signed by whoever you designate, either the president of the board or the superintendent. And that's returned to me. I get that to the firm in San Diego. Once they get that, they immediately process it. And by immediate, I mean within a month or so, and a complaint is filed. And like I say, these complaints get filed and it all sort of sits until the bellwether cases begin to move forward. But yes, these that I mentioned that have joined, complaints have been filed on their behalf.
And when was the first of those filed?
Oh, probably back in April or so.
Okay.
I'm just estimating. I could be wrong on that. April or May.
Thank you. You indicated that there was an opportunity for Elko County School District to be able to receive compensation based on our unique circumstances. What is used to calculate what that impact is?
You know, my colleagues in San Diego can answer that better than I. But typically, what the damages that they're looking to measure are going to be based on increase in issues, for instance, with special education kids requiring additional counseling, or mental health issues, where districts are having to retain the money's going to come to retain additional professionals, additional counselors, additional professionals that you need, to deal with the crisis. And like I say, they have they being the firm in San Diego, kind of has the platform as to how they're going about that. So I don't know that I can provide you with a good answer to that tonight, but that's what it's based on primarily. And I don't know if you have seen or noticed, but there are this is a true crisis that's going on in this country. And there are ads that you will see on television right now of coalitions that are being formed to approach the United States Congress for reform with respect to all these social media companies based upon the damage that they have caused to children. A lot of this goes back to the COVID years that we had and we experienced, where kids were isolated more, and therefore they were on their devices more. And that's when a lot of these companies, began to prey more on students. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Could I ask, in the end, does this change anything about Meta, TikTok, anything besides they have to pay some money? Like what are there
No.
going to be things they have to do or?
A lot of times the reason you see these class actions and mass litigation actions against these very large, huge, wealthy companies is to bring about change. They're going to be exposed with respect to, like I say, there are whistleblowers within these companies that have come forward. And that's where a lot of the proof is going to be coming, that there's actual algorithms that they have used to hook students into their platforms. And then the information that they feed their audience is not always a healthy information. So the way you create change is by bringing these actions, and when they write a big enough check in the end, not with respect to just Elko County School District, but with respect to all the various school districts within the country that may join this, they're going to either change or they're going to go out of business. They're going to have to. So, that's often what happens with respect to this type of litigation, and which should happen. Does that, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Any other questions from the board? Okay, just a reminder, at the moment, this is a non-action item, so we're just receiving a presentation, and this is something that the board can look at individually, and we can look to Mr. Anderson to potentially give us a recommendation on this as far as if we want more information, but at the moment we can't vote on anything or move forward with any type of action. But Mr. Anderson, thank you for the presentation. We appreciate this information, and it's helpful to know the districts in the state who have already joined this, and perhaps we can reach out to those districts as well and get some information from them as far as their experience so far. All right, anything else on that item before we move on, before we let Mr. Anderson go? Everybody good?
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
All right.
I was
Okay,
just
yes,
gonna
go ahead,
offer
Jeff.
to discuss and ask some of those districts when we're at the meeting this weekend with NASB to see what their feelings and reasons behind that was, and I was going to bring that back.
Okay, appreciate that, Jeff. All right, again, thank you, Mr. Anderson, for that presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
All right, we'll move on to item 1.7, input from the public. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. A speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. Is there anyone who wishes to make a comment at this time? All right. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item 2.1, which is receipt, review, and possible approval of contract with Student Centered Institute for Educational Improvement to develop and implement the Learner Centered Project. This is for possible action. All right, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, thanks. So this is, well, I think it was last board meeting. We had a quarterly update from Ray. Was that last meeting? Yeah. Two board meetings ago, Ray updated us on an initiative. Well, initiative is not the right word. On a new process we're going to go about to make sure we have better consistency across the district in regards to the curriculum that is taught, how those ancillary documents that go along with an adoption and all that goes together. And so SCIEI is the acronym for this institute. It's an institute that we've worked with on a smaller scale through some grant funding opportunity. Really impressed with what they have to offer. And so we're moving forward with doing this on a larger scale, starting with math adoption. So this is all just a recap of what Ray told you a couple meetings ago. However, due to our, importantly, because of our process for when contracts are approved and engaged in with the district, those come before the board first. So I guess if you have more questions about the exact work, then Ray and I can go ahead and answer those questions. But this is so we can formalize and enter into a contract with them to work on a larger scale with all of our schools, as opposed to the couple that they've been working with for the last year or two.
Okay, questions from the board?
Was this funded through a federal grant?
Was it, what grant was it funded through originally? Yeah, so.
And so that's the original grant moving forward. Is that grant continuing, or is this through district funds?
Yeah, it's been a grant that we've received for several years. We've used it for different things, but yeah, the anticipation is that it'll continue. Being federal funds, that makes it
Is there a district match, or is this fully federal funded?
well, it's
This
pretty
is Cassie Spelke. I'm online, Matt, and it's completely federally funded. There's no match.
Thank you.
there is some, just to be entirely clear, there is some stipend funds that are going to come from the general fund, but it's, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's very, very insignificant, small compared to
The stipend that he's talking about. So the part that will the grant funding, that when we say it's fully funded, that's to pay them to do the work they do. On our end, we're going to need teachers who are experts in this, who will have to dedicate time after hours in order to be able to fully execute the work on their end. And so that's our contribution to an extent, is to pay them beyond contract hours to engage in the work on their end.
Any other questions?
There are a few quarterly reports that are in there. Are these quarterly reports that are going to be brought to us by SCIEI, or are these reports that you would present as part of your quarterly report? Okay.
So they work with an outside auditor, I guess we'll call it, to make sure that they're complying with the things that they said that they're going to do, and that person will provide us with quarterly reports on that. I'll in turn report to us.
Okay. And this is on the timeline, tentative project target dates under Exhibit A, anticipated that implementation would be sometime around the end of the school year for 23-24, and then continuing on. At what point do we go to a new curriculum?
So the idea is for math for this school year, and then next school year will be a second, or even a second or third. Because once you kind of got the process in place, some of it is repetitive and duplicating. Obviously, it's a little bit different because now you're talking about language arts instead of math, but the structures are the same. So ideally, the idea would be that by year 2, we'll do multiple subjects simultaneously.
And go ahead.
And then by engaging the teachers in the work all along the way, once they've been through it, they're familiar with those processes. Our district leadership is familiar, administrators are familiar, and it's essentially teaching or training the trainer, right? Like teaching us how to go about those processes, so then we are self-sufficient for the
When new things are
when we
implemented.
adopt math again in 7 years or 14 years or whatever the next time we have to read, when we do something new, then we're familiar with the processes and how to do that.
Okay, so will this always follow a new curriculum adoption on a district-wide, or?
I think that is to be determined, I would
Okay.
say. I think in my mind, at least, it works out really well. This coincides with the new material. So assuming that goes well, I would think that would maybe be a good pattern to follow in subsequent years. If it doesn't, we don't necessarily have to. The other thing that I would think about is, obviously, math is a big, I don't want to downplay any of our curriculum, they're all important, but math is a big chunk of what we do. ELA is pretty big too, so we probably don't want to wait too long on that one. So I guess the short answer is it certainly could follow that, or we could decide, hey, there's some other stuff we can get done first.
Okay. Will this be limited to the core curriculums, or how far down are we gonna, not down, I mean, I don't mean to minimize anything, but.
The intention or the hope is that it would cover everything we teach.
Okay.
We'll be able to have some established structures for all of our students.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? How would you like to proceed?
Madam Chair, move to approve the contract with Student Centered Institute for Educational Improvement to develop and implement learner-centered project.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the motion carries. Item 2.2 is receipt, review, and possible approval of Indian policies and procedures for impact aid funding purposes. This is for possible action.
Okay, thank you. So those of you who've been around a little bit, this is a every year situation. There's a certain amount of money we get from impact aid funding, and part of that is Indian policies and procedures and assurances for those purposes. And so this is our 23-24 Indian policies and procedures.
All right, any questions from the board?
One brief question that kind of just popped up. Do we have this document or this identical language somewhere in our standard policies makeup? So for example, JACB, do we have one of those that is this? And is it, I didn't know if it was relevant. I mean, it says policy and procedure. I didn't know if we should try to have that in one of our typical layouts.
I don't know if we do.
Okay.
Yeah, I can certainly look into that. Unless Candace knows off the top of her head if we have one. All right.
I don't think it has any bearing on whether or not we vote one way or the other. I just was curious.
Any other?
Madam Chair, move
Go
to
ahead.
approve the Indian policies and procedures for impact aid funding purposes.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, nay? All right, chair votes aye and the motion carries. Item 2.3 is receipt, review, and possible approval to begin the design phase to upgrade the heating system at Jackpot Elementary. This is for possible action. All right.
So this is an item that is present in our 5-year capital improvement plan. It's a very pending need for Jackpot Elementary. It's been an ongoing issue. There's a history behind it. But bottom line is winter is fast approaching and heating is insufficient. And so we are seeking permission to proceed with design. Obviously, design is one of the first phases of this, right? And so in order to get that ball rolling, we would need approval for design. Stephen is here if you have any specific questions about the heating system itself or any projected ideas or anything like that. He can give you a little more detailed information.
Any questions from the board? All right, if not, how would the board like to proceed?
Madam Chair, move that the board approves the Jackpot Elementary heating system design.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. We definitely want our students to be warm. That's great in the winter.
And our staff.
And our staff, yes, of course. Everyone, we want everyone in the building to be warm when it's winter. All right, item 2.4 is receipt, review, and discussion of proposed new policy EFDE, public records retention schedules. This is a non-action item.
Thank you. So all four of these next ones are all first readings. Different, intentions behind each one. But so for this first one, 2.04, within state agencies or local government agencies, there are, so you'll notice from the attachments. So one of them is our policy about adopting such a schedule, but there are so many different types of records that we maintain or dispose of or retain, and different things you can do with the records, that it would be exhaustive to put all of those in a policy. So rather, the policy talks about this other document. The state of Nevada has, so that's the other attachment, is in 2020 they have a local government records retention schedule, and so it helps us adhere to and pay attention to the length of time we have to hold on to those there. And depending on, it could be anything. It could be students' medical records. It could be their behavior records. It could be visitors' logs from schools. It can be personnel files. Like the list goes on and on and on. And you'll see from the attachment is 443 pages. Most of that is not schools related. It's about all local government agencies. And so the school, it's alphabetical by type of institution or agency. And so the schools are somewhere down in the late 300s to early 400s pages. But it tells you how long you have to hold on to those things. And so it's just we're supposed to have a policy about our records retention to make sure we're doing it according to Nevada's records retention schedule. So it's a formalization of how we do that.
All right, any questions from the board? All right, any recommendations for any changes before we see this again on the next agenda?
None at this point.
Wow, let's move on. Just good.
Quickly.
All right. Okay, I will move on to item 2.5, receipt, review, and discussion of proposed changes to policy JDAB, student discipline, safe and respectful learning environment, discrimination based on race, bullying, and cyberbullying of students prohibited. This is also a non-action item.
Thanks. So following a legislative year, there are often changes that have to come to policy. And student discipline was something that experienced quite a bit of attention during the legislative session. It's a little, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's a little hazy right now because there were two different bills that addressed restorative justice and suspensions and ages of kids who can be suspended and what types of consequences can apply to different situations and different ages. And so, and in some situations, bills contradicted each other. I know it's going to shock you that that happened from our bills that were passed, but that is the case. So, but some things are perfectly clear. And so the things that are clear that we know have changed and concretely, we must abide by. Those things are reflected in JDAB. And that is another very large policy. But we went through and made the updates where they needed to be. If there are specific places or pages or something you have a question about, I can help try to answer those. There's not like a ton of changes within here. What we did change it's not the policy, but it's worth mentioning to you, is our behavior matrix, our restorative plan, that will change quite a bit. So the documents that our administrators and our teachers use to govern how we handle those situations, there are a lot of changes to be made to those, and Paul has been working on those basically since the end of June, early July, as guidance is made available to us. But even from the state, we're sometimes getting, we don't quite know how that's going to be implemented yet. So wait for further notice kind of thing. But the policy itself, a few little changes, not massive though.
All right, any questions from the board?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yep.
Subsection 17 or section 17 was stricken or struck completely. Does the Office of Safe and Respectful Learning no longer exist?
No, it's just that report no longer exists.
Okay, and that came from the state side.
Yeah.
That's not us saying, nah, we don't want to do this. Okay.
So they did away with, so that was the bullying report we had to submit quarterly. They changed that, and now it's more of it's a broader disciplinary report that needs to be submitted to me quarterly sites, and then I submit it at the end of the year, and that's one of those things we're waiting for some less cloudy guidance than what that's.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Guidance? All right, well, then we will see this again on a future agenda. All right, we'll move on to item 2.6, another non-action item, receipt review and discussion of proposed policy JDAC, diverse gender identities or expressions.
Thank you. So this would be a new policy for us. And as background information on the agenda indicates, it's to comply with state requirements regarding procedure and training for supporting individuals of these descriptions. There are two relevant attachments. One is the new policy and the other is the NAC, or the Nevada Academic Code, which says we shall adopt such a policy and talks about what we need to do. I will say that, like so many other things that maybe weren't formalized in policy, a lot of this stuff is not change for what our administrators and what our staff do. There are often considerations, more often is not even a good word. There are almost always these considerations are being taken. Our district administrators get trained every year on bullying, harassment, and not just with gender identity, but with all types of bullying and harassment, right? And so those things are taught to them by us at the district, by legal counsel. They're updated from legal authorities to make sure we're doing things the right way. The one thing that we were maybe missing a little bit that again is going to be formalized, not that we weren't doing it, but it wasn't formal, was a support plan for these students. And so that's something an administrator will formalize on a piece of paper if it wasn't something they had formalized. But that is the impetus for this new policy. And happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from the board?
No question, just a comment that this is required by the state, correct?
Correct.
The board and the district has very little input into whether or not these policies are conducted throughout our district, correct?
Yes, to help hit home that point, number 2 of the NAC says the board shall adopt a policy that includes without limitation. So it tells us exactly what has to be in the policy as well.
And in reading Nevada Administrative Code 388.880, it seems that this is almost verbatim what that Nevada Administrative Code is. Is there anything that jumped out that was different from that? Perfect. So if there's anyone in the community that would like input on this, because this is only a non-active item or non-action item, they still have time to be able to come before this board.
Yeah, certainly.
And that would be welcome.
Yes.
As with anything.
It's why we have the time between board meetings built in, so people can have that time to.
And we appreciate that change, and thank you for letting me beat that horse.
Yep.
All right, are there any other questions or discussion points on this item?
So basically, sorry, so you have to have a plan to express yourself, if, like.
Yeah, I can help answer that. So no, the student does not have to have a plan. What this is saying is that, so oftentimes, at least in my experience as an administrator, and I'm sure the other administrators in the room can share the same experiences, is when is a student will say, hey, this is happening in my life. I want to do this, like they'll make their wishes known to us. And we have to, from an adult perspective, think of how we can provide the most safe and respectful learning environment for that student. And oftentimes that involves, you know, talking to certain people, making sure there are supports in place, making sure we are cognizant of helping that student avoid any bullying or harassment based on their gender expression. And so the plan is for us and how we're going to handle supporting the student. It's not, you have to have a plan to make that decision. It's how are we going to help support the student?
Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah.
I will say that I do appreciate under number 3 that it says that the site administrator of a school in which a pupil who has a diverse gender identity or expression is enrolled must convene a team to develop an individualized plan to address the rights and needs of the pupil. And I like that it says the team must consist of the pupil, the parent or guardian of the pupil, and a representative of the community. I think it's good that in policy it says that parents need to be informed and part of that.
Thank you, Brooke, for bringing it up. I was gonna bring that up too. Appreciate it.
Which is consistent with our suicide prevention policy and why that was important to the board. So that is here as well in the same fashion.
Absolutely. Anything else before we move to the next item? All right, we'll move to item 2.7, receipt, review, and discussion of proposed new policy, JGCE, student welfare, student safety, video surveillance. Again, this is a non-action item.
Thank you. So we've talked a lot about our school violence prevention project that we're working on with all of our schools across the district. And a big part of that larger project is the installation of cameras at all of our schools across the district. So that project, as you know, is being funded from many different sources. And one of those sources, or I think maybe even several of the sources, are grant sources. And so because some of those grant funds are federal grants, federal requirement for usage of federal funds for cameras is that the LEA or the school district in this case would have a policy in place for how we utilize that system. So you know, things such as privacy, obviously we're not gonna put cameras in bathrooms, that type of thing. So where cameras can be placed, for what purpose they're being placed, how footage will be archived, how it will be utilized, how it's going to be balanced out to still protect FERPA, but also still protect student and staff safety. And so the policy is, it just makes it so that you have to have some accountability into how you utilize those cameras. It can't be, oh, we're going to put them everywhere, put them in your room, and I'm putting them in your room, and we're using it for, like, what is the purpose of these cameras? Because the money is for safety, right? Like that's the purpose of the project. So that's what it's going there for. And this is how it'll be utilized. And this is how it will not be utilized. And the kind of the haziest part of it is when people outside of school personnel, not even all school personnel, but certain school personnel will have access to the video because of protecting privacy. So this is a new policy for our district. We researched and looked at other districts and what they have going on. And so this is what we came up with after looking into other policies that are similar, but a requirement in order for us to be able to benefit from those federal funds in order to make our schools safer.
Any questions from the board?
not necessarily questions, but perhaps just discussion and possible modifications in other industries, including the Nevada gaming industry. Videos have to be validated or otherwise secured and identified that it was a true video. That may be something to add into here, that there's some type of encryption and or validation attached, so that especially in today's world of creating fake video, there's a way that the system itself embeds that into the video. I don't know what our capabilities are, but that's something that may be something to put in there. Another thing, obviously, from a security and safety standpoint, we don't want to advertise that, hey, we re-record over our videos every 28 minutes or whatever, but we may want to put a time limit on that to say, because we've given parents the ability to say we want to view this, we may want to put in there a reasonable time limit to say it has to be within this time. We can't go back to 1999 to record or to review a video. The last thing that I have in here is we may also want to add a portion in here, and it may already be covered by the previous videotaping policy that this board decided on last year, I believe, if my memory's right, maybe earlier this year. But we don't want somebody recording a viewing of the video on their own device, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So just some comments, and we can go whatever the district thinks might be appropriate on those.
Any other questions or suggestions from the board on that one?
That stole my thunder, so I don't.
Y'all should know by now. If you want to say something, you better speak up.
I would just second how long are we keeping them?
Yeah.
So,
I could see that the video retention is discussed under point 3, and it's due to policy EFDE or until any disciplinary or administrative action, whichever is greater. So it does look like it is listed. It's just in that other policy.
And I thank you, Jeff. I did see that, and I know that we're reviewing policy EFDE. Well, it's in the consent agenda. I was looking more at a parent coming back to the district to say, hey, my student was harassed in this classroom by a teacher in May of 2020. I want to see that video. That's all I was saying, is that in order to perhaps begin the initiation of an investigation, we may want to, in some policy, state there's a limitation of what we can do. We can only save so much video at any one point in time. But thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that clarification as well.
that also brings up like, well, I'll just say car accidents or something, like we need a policy on, or maybe add to the policy as far as how far we'll allow that. So let's say we got a camera that gets some weird angle and it gets parking lot.
Yeah.
And being part of that, releasing that video, something to that extent, if we have a policy on that or somewhere in the policy. So I don't know if we want to be part of that, but we can be part of what we.
So if an outside, like if a law enforcement agency wanted us to.
I'm just saying in general, like a insurance company or something. So something to that extent.
So sharing of.
Yeah, so like you go to a grocery store, they got cameras up there and you go, hey, can I get a copy of this? No, you can't. So like, can we or can't we? Do we, don't we? I would say probably no, but.
A neighbor that perhaps has their house broken into and they want to see our video to see if their house is
Right. And
captured.
certainly if someone was like, we're pretty sure someone got murdered in front of your camera, we'd like to see that.
Yeah.
It would be
Yeah, so if we
reasonable
had
for us
some
to
sort of-
say, yeah, we'd be happy to share
Yeah,
that
some
with
sort
you.
of policy that dictates.
But if someone was like, I'm pretty sure that kid, you know, looked at me funny, that or someone yelled at my son, like, nah, I'm probably not gonna pull that
Wherever,
one
yeah.
up for you.
Something that covers that.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. Yep.
All right, any other guidance on this one before we move on to the next item? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our consent agenda.
Madam Chair, move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the motion carries. Item 4.1 is a report from our NASB Director. Jeff?
All right, hi, everybody. Hey, I want to apologize. I'm not there in person. I had some stuff come up today and I just, anyway, I'm here, but I'm looking forward to Las Vegas this weekend. We've got NASB meeting on Friday, followed by training on Saturday, and I'll be back with a good report on that. I am going to ask about the social media litigation that they presented earlier and see if if anybody has any feeling of that with the NASB group, and I'll bring that back to the board in my next report as well. That's all I have today.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Any questions for our NASB Director? All right, we'll move on to item 4.2, which is items from board members.
Really quick, I just wanted to say that I went to the training where they trained on Goalbook, and I think from what I could see, it's a great tool, and I think it's really going to help case managers write IEPs, and also I think even the general education teachers, it has lots of things in there that they'll be able to use to help those students that have IEPs. So I was really impressed with that. Wanted to thank Ken Higby for inviting me to that training. Thought that was wonderful. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, if I may, particularly for our speech and debate folks that are out there, our students, there is an opportunity Thursday, for a debate between State Senator Ira Hansen and Attorney Scott Beckstead. The format is not a typical kind of go back and forth. It's going to be a lot of just talking, 20 minutes for opening, 10 minutes for rebuttal, and then there will be 10 minutes of cross-examination from each of the debaters. This will be at the Elko Convention Visitors Authority on Thursday night at 6 p.m. So for those students or those clubs that are interested in that, the topic is wild horses in Nevada. So if you're interested, you may want to just consider attending.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to item 5.1, which is our superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'll just report back on a few things. It's been a few weeks since our last board meeting, and but we've had a lot go on. So the week before school started, we had an awesome professional development week. Brooke mentioned she went to some training there for Goalbook and special education, and all of our staff from across the district were able to participate in various training, including importantly all of our math teachers or teachers who teach math in addition to other things, being acquainted with the new math curriculum and the various components that go along with that. So that was very beneficial. And then everyone was treated to an awesome presentation from Alex Boyer over the Performing Arts Building. I was happy to see several of our board members there, so thank you so much for coming. And really just an awesome experience. I've heard so many positive things from our staff about what that experience was like for them, how uplifting it was, how good of a message it was. It was just what they needed, and they also talked so much about how great it was to get back together and be with other staff that they haven't seen in a while, and be able to put their heads together with other professionals. It's some of the best PD professional development that anyone can get, is just being with other people that are in the trenches, the same ones as you are, and learning from each other and troubleshooting together. And so between that great PD and the wonderful, inspiring presentation from Alex Boyer, it was a great day. Just a wonderful experience. And so we're really happy to kick off the year that way. And then good success at our health fair as well. We brought that back it disappeared with COVID, but it's back. And we're working hard with our insurance. I don't know what the right word is, but with the LP insurance to make sure our employees have access to to quality healthcare insurance and make sure they have opportunities to prioritize their health and wellness. As we all know, that is one of our 4 pillars of the strategic plan, is to make sure mental and physical well-being is essential to all of our success. So that went very well on Thursday and Friday of that week. Then the next week was our first week of school, and first week of school was awesome. Between, trying to think of, correct me if I'm wrong, but between the directors and we visited every school in the district. Was it by Wednesday? I think it was by Wednesday. Every single school had seen either me or one of them. And I've got 2 more rural schools to see, but other than those 2, I've been to every school myself. And with the primary, not just to be there, right? Because like whatever, you check a box, that doesn't mean anything, right? But it's to go there, see how people are doing, and the pulse is great. Like people are positive. They're smiling. I've been talking to kids. Any kid I can talk to at lunch, on the playground, sitting at their desk, like how are you liking 4-day? How's that going for you? What some kids have said, I hate it, and some, but a lot of kids are very optimistic about it, and just getting chances to talk to everyone. Just lots of positivity, and people just in general, the tenor is we're excited about this school year. It's off to a great start, and it's been awesome to see that in all of our students' faces and our staff's faces, and really it's been exciting. I was actually up here in Jackpot. We didn't make it for the first bell of the day, but we were here before second period started. We were up here in Jackpot, me and Dr. Higby, and just really awesome to be around at all our schools, and also to hear what their needs are still, because we know everything's not perfect. And believe me, I heard about the elementary heating, and I heard about some other things that Jackpot needs, and we were able to help kind of start to address some of those needs immediately. And so just making sure we're around so we can provide help where it's needed and show support for all of our schools. So it was an awesome week. It blew by when you're driving around a county of 17,000 square miles. It's that time will go by quickly in that car, but well worth it. And now we're all playing catch up from being out of the office so much last week. But really appreciate all the directors hitting the road and making sure we're getting people what they need and supporting our schools in those ways. And then the other fun thing I did was I put on an inflatable Tyrannosaurus Rex costume, and I ran disappointingly in second place in my race. Dr. Higby is, with his 172 state championships, was disappointed in my second place finish, but it was fun to represent our school district, and it was a great event too. So thanks to everyone who puts that on, and it's just a fun little thing to be able to do. So we'll see how many years I can keep putting on the costume. One of these years I'll probably stop doing it, but hanging in there. Keep it up. So anyway, I think that's it. Oh, and no, sorry, that is not it. I apologize. I should have ended on something positive. I'm going to share something else with you. So Jeff, just like Jeff is going to report or find out from his other people about what's going on there, I'm going to be meeting with, I'll head to Washoe tomorrow for our monthly NASB meeting, and I'll inquire as to what's going on there as well. However, I do want to make sure you're aware. It's short notice, but if you got some time tomorrow morning, the State Board of Education is moving forward with its crusade to mandate school start times across the state. And they have not backed off of it, and they're continuing forward with it despite every superintendent in the state telling them they don't like it, despite the school, I think the School Boards Association also spoke out against it. They are coming up with a proposed regulation. The State Board of Education is meeting tomorrow morning. I think it's 9 a.m. I'll have to double check on that, but they have a meeting tomorrow morning. And what they want to do is say that no school anywhere in the state can start any earlier than 8 o'clock in the morning, which obviously is a problem for our school district, where we have schools that start as early as 7:15, and that is very much tied to our ability to transport students to school effectively. So it proposes problems for, I want to say, about 6 of our schools. It wouldn't go into effect immediately, and it's not even at a point where if it passes, that we would have to do it right away, like they would put it off till the next school year. But the big sentiment, I mean, we often talk about having choice, like this is the type of decision that is should be a local decision. And so we've got superintendents that are writing, who are providing public comment, who are writing individual letters. Our association is going to continue to speak out against it. If you have the ability to, and you want to provide the perspective of a board member, an individual board member, to talk about how you think it's an overreach and something that they should leave to local school boards to figure out for themselves, then I encourage you to do that. I'm participating in the ways that I can. And so anyway, try to protect our control and our choice where we have it. And instead of having other people say what time we have to start school, feels like an overreach to me.
I'm assuming that the public comment period will probably not be open.
No, they usually are.
I think you can provide public comment.
They
Yeah.
ask for it at the beginning.
I just didn't know, because oftentimes they'll limit that to, we've heard 4 or 5 of you, so.
Yeah, potentially. I'm not sure exactly how they run that.
So write a letter and try to do public comment.
And it's at 2 tomorrow.
Oh, it's at 2?
At 2?
Okay, thank you.
Is it held in,
I was gonna be traveling.
is it held in Vegas or Carson?
I believe it's
Both.
being
Simulcast?
held, yeah, simulcast at both. Yep.
Is there a link to
I
rural
can
areas? Perfect. If you could send that information out as well as,
share it out to all of you.
yeah, as well as how to submit public comment, that'd be great.
Yep.
Please.
Be happy to.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's important too for everyone here to know, like, because Jackpot starts at, is it at 8? Yeah, so you start right at 8, right? So it doesn't affect you necessarily, but obviously it's important to be involved in these types of things because this time, this thing doesn't apply to you, right? But in cases where people try to legislate or mandate things that should be within your own purview and control, yeah, this one didn't affect you, but the next one might. And so it's important to, obviously, to be involved and speak out and protect your ability to make those decisions how we feel the need to make them. So, yeah.
And another potentially practical application, especially for those in our high school side, would be what that means for some of our schools who have only one gym and what that does to the school day, pushing that back further, meaning that those schools that have to travel would then be pushed even later, putting our kids on the road and getting back home again, even later than what they're getting now.
There are
Correct?
So many ways it messes. Yeah,
So
it
many
messes
things.
with sports schedules. It messes with transportation. It could probably. I'm assuming it could be the difference between a student being able to have a job after school and not have a job after school. There are all these different elements where, again, let people make that. Let the greater community make that choice. And I know, for example, in the community of Spring Creek, they very much like having their school start time earlier in the day. And so if that's what Spring Creek loves to do, and they're good with it, and it helps all of their schedules work out, from athletics to work, to transportation, to people's personal schedules, to childcare, to you fill in the blank. Their community has rallied around it and made it work. So why have someone uproot that because they've read a study somewhere that says that that's when kids should start school?
And all of those studies are based on high school students, and that's only a portion of our student population.
Correct.
And that's not how we should do things.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Seth, from a transportation standpoint, have we analyzed what that would mean for transportation? And what I mean by that is, how many more buses would we need to be able to facilitate that?
Essentially, it's Spring Creek and Elko, we're talking about doubling the size, because we'd no longer be able to tier. So we'd have to run elementary and high school, unless you want to push elementary back to 9, 10 o'clock start time.
Right.
Yeah. You would eliminate the tiering.
What a
system,
disaster.
So we would essentially have to double in size.
And that's roughly 30 buses between the two communities?
There's 18 that go to Spring Creek High and Middle that also service out of the 20 that service Willow. So there's 20 buses, 18 go to the high school and middle school every morning. So we'd have to basically pretty much double that right there. And then in Elko, you have the same number that service the high school and the building.
And what's the current,
Doing that. So you're talking about, yeah, 36 more buses, yeah.
and what did we just spend on the buses we bought?
The ones we just purchased, the ones we got in, 1.4.
And that was for 5?
Okay.
10, okay. So 140,000 each?
But now the price has increased. They're 209,000 each now. And they need 36 more.
So it'd be $7.5 million
Just in buses.
just in buses,
Yeah.
plus needing to find the drivers.
Finding drivers
Yeah.
that we-
That's probably the bigger problem
For a year
is
that we can
drivers.
get to, we're still short to go.
Yeah, they got drivers, yeah.
It's
That's right,
gonna
they got
affect
drivers.
busing students, but even me, like my kids ride a bus, parents that I've decided to drive my kids to and from school this year. And my kids have to be out of the school and meet me at the car as soon as possible in order for me to get to the next, because I have 4 different schools I'm going to, in order for me to get to the next school on time so that I don't have my elementary age kid sitting out there for 10 minutes or longer waiting for me, because the traffic's crazy at that time of day when kids are getting out and kids are going to school if you're not right on it. So if they moved it even later,
Is there recourse?
I don't know how
They-
parents would even get their kids dropped off in time.
If they push this nonsense, is there recourse otherwise? Like, can the districts push back on it?
Well, so
Like-
there would be a waiver process for like right now, again, it's a draft regulation.
Okay.
There's probably 4 more steps between what they're at now and
Okay.
when it would be done. But the initial regulation indicates that there would be some sort of a waiver to be exempt from that and you would submit your application for waiver of why, because of this, and you'd say all the reasons, right? But then they added, if you're gonna do that, then there's a burden of, well, if you're gonna have a waiver, you then have to provide an alternative for those people who don't want to. Like, it just puts more of a burden on the school district to now create additional educational opportunities. So yes, but not really. It
Yeah,
just,
yes, but you're not, yeah.
yeah,
it's-
you can
both
do
of
a
them
waiver
are
if you
not
want,
feasible.
but, right, either way, it's gonna be a burden, and a massive upheaval to the community and to the school district, and from a financial standpoint, from a staffing standpoint, from so many different standpoints, it's unreasonable. And again,
It doesn't work in our community.
it's an overreach. It's not something they need to be involved in.
But since this is an executive department,
Yeah.
theoretically, the legislature could come in and say, nope, here's the law, we're not allowing that. So we could petition the legislature to fix that for as effective as that could be.
Yeah.
Theoretically, I'm just saying,
Thanks.
that could be one more recourse.
Isn't that the final step is the legislative commission? I think they would be the ones that would.
It depends on how much leeway they've given the department. Many of the executive departments can continue to move forward with things on their side. It's their purview. And if the legislature is given that much leeway, then that's why we end up with the bureaucracy that we do.
All right, any other questions or guidance for our
Sorry,
superintendent?
I should have
Anything
ended on
else?
T-Rex races. That's my bad.
Right.
Well,
Wait, you were in a T-Rex race? How'd you place?
maybe.
Could you end on a good note by reminding people one more time of who was kind enough to get Alex here?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
there seems
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be some confusion on how that was paid for.
On
so.
how Alex Boye was paid for?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, great. So that entire event of where we had Alex Boye come talk to our staff, and they talked to our students as well. The district didn't pay a penny for Alex to come here, nor for the books that went along with his presentation. Those were due to generous donations by the Cook Center for Human Connection, who we're going to continue to collaborate with from a mental health perspective and from providing parent resources in that regard. And then the other half, or half probably is wrong, but the remaining portion that wasn't offset by the Cook Center was generously taken care of by the Elko Federal Credit Union. So yeah, we didn't pay any money for that. So if someone was concerned about why we're spending money on an amazing speaker who uplifted and edified our staff and our students for the wonderful people that they are. Don't worry, we didn't spend any money on that. Other amazing people helped provide that for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
I
for
can't
that.
keep my straight face. That was fantastic, though. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to item 6.1. Oh, thank you, Mr. Anderson, by the way.
Yes.
So item 6.1, which is approval of the accounts payable.
Move to approve the accounts payable.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, abstentions, or disclosures on the accounts payable?
Yes, I have to disclose that I have a family member that owns one of these companies, so I'm staying from voting.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll disclose that I also have a family member that works for Wells Rural Electric, but I will not be abstaining from voting.
All right, and I have the same disclosure as Brooke, so we'll move along quickly. Any other questions or discussion on the accounts payable? All right, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, nay? All right, chair votes aye, and with one abstention, the accounts payable motion carries. All right,
Board member reimbursement.
Move to approve
Thank you.
the accounts
Thank you.
payable board member reimbursements for September 5, 2023.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Any abstentions or disclosures?
I will abstain because it's mine.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and that motion carries as well. All right, and before we go to input from the public, I just want to say thank you, Anita, for being here with us. We appreciate your presence and we appreciate your opinion and are glad to hear it anytime. So
Thank you.
thank you. Yeah. All right, item 7.1 is a final opportunity for public input. If there's anyone who wishes to make a comment.
Someone else.
Thank you again to the community and staff of Jackpot for welcoming us.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yeah, so we do have one that was.
Did I miss
submitted.
one? Oh.
No, you didn't. miss
Okay,
it,
I was
but I
like-
have it.
Okay,
So we have one that was asked to be read. It is from Veronica Jimenez. And the subject is urgent concern, lack of air conditioning in our children's school. Dear school board members, I hope this message finds you well. I am writing to express my deep concern regarding the lack of air conditioning in West Wendover Middle School and West Wendover High School where my children attend. As we are currently in the warmer months, it has become increasingly evident that the absence of proper cooling systems poses a significant challenge to the learning environment and the overall well-being of our students. It is disheartening to witness our children struggling to concentrate and engage in their studies due to the uncomfortable and oppressive heat within the classrooms. The lack of air conditioning not only affects their academic performance, but also jeopardizes their health and safety. High temperatures can lead to dehydration, fatigue, and even heat-related illnesses, which can hinder their ability to learn effectively. I understand that budget constraints and other factors may have contributed to this issue, but I firmly believe that providing a conducive learning environment should be a top priority for our school district. It is crucial that our children have access to a comfortable and safe space that promotes optimal learning and growth. I kindly request that the school board takes immediate action to address this matter. Addressing the challenge of insufficient air conditioning during the warmer school months requires a multifaceted approach. Firstly, implementing a comprehensive maintenance plan for existing HVAC systems to ensure they are operating at optimal efficiency is crucial. Additionally, investing in portable fans strategically placed throughout classrooms and common areas can provide immediate relief. Furthermore, incorporating energy efficient building designs such as better insulation and shading during any future construction or renovation projects can help regulate indoor temperatures. Collaborating with local communities for potential funding or grants to improve the school's infrastructure is another avenue to explore. Finally, educating students and staff about heat-related health precautions and encouraging the use of lightweight breathable clothing could help everyone better cope with warmer conditions. Moreover, I urge the school board to consider the long-term benefits of investing in air conditioning systems. By creating a comfortable learning environment, we can enhance student performance, boost morale, and attract and retain quality educators who are essential to our children's education. I appreciate your attention to this matter and trust that you will give it the serious consideration it deserves. Our children's education and well-being are at stake, and I believe that together we can find a solution that ensures their success and happiness. Thank you for your time and dedication to our community's education system.
thank you.
Thank you. Can you forward that to the board if it hasn't already been done so? Thank you.
I just want to say it's a great letter. Like, it's very nice. Like,
Yeah,
we're
that's what
gonna
I
look at,
thought.
obviously, we're gonna do, looking
Yeah.
at things, but that's how you write a letter.
Written very nicely.
And if you have questions, I will say, so public comment ended. If you have questions about what is going on more specifically there, feel free to reach out to me, or you can reach out directly to Stephen and he can fill you in on what is already being done about that. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is cool.
Anything could go wrong on the first week of school, cooling when it's 90 degrees out. But technicians from the school district were able to report to the schools, find out what the problem was and fix it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment? All right. Well, then that will end the public session of this meeting. So we thank you again for hosting us. We appreciate being able to be here. Thank you for all you do for your students here in Jackpot. We know you work hard and do amazing things. So we can't wait to hear the House report next year or whenever you want to come tell us about it. It's exciting. All right. So the next motion will move us into closed session. So we'll give everybody the opportunity to go home and eat dinner or whatever it is you want to do now. So before we